It's really just trust building more than anything.
What I'm curious about is how do you guys accelerate adoption? Obviously, you're going to be, speaking at conferences, but with all the discussion around AI, it still seems like there's a lot of anxiety, hesitation.
Vacancy rates are really high. That just makes it really, really competitive to compete for the renters that are out there. And providing that kind of real-time, meet the renters where they are, great renter experience is really important. They were about 6 or 7 people based in Tel Aviv, had some really amazing AI talent and a great initial technology basis.
Okay, welcome to the Digital Dudes podcast. I'm David.
I'm Reed.
Reed, would you rent an apartment from her?
Her, the movie Her? I
Yes.
thought that was where,
Yeah,
nice.
I thought you'd pick up on that.
Nice intro.
Thank you.
I don't know if I could tell you that without actually experiencing it. But since I'm sure you're expecting me to have a more committed answer, committal, yes, I think I could.
Okay, well, you're right. Today we're talking, we had a conversation with, Service. What's his first name?
Matt.
Sorry, Matt. I almost said Matt, but you know how I second guess myself now because I screwed up so many times. We had a great conversation with Matt Service at Retcon about their new Lea Pro. So they've had Lea for a while, but now they have Pro. And he was educating us on how it's now an omni-channel solution, which at first I feel like I was discounting, because I feel like so much marketing speak has been thrown around in the last decade about omni-channel this and that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I feel like I hear that from all the, virtual agents, right? And but then it wasn't until I got to see the video and hear some recordings about the like how it handles phone calls. So it can handle phone calls, text, email, and the like. And then he made the joke that a lot of folks have even shown up at apartment buildings that have been testing Pro and have said, "Hey, I want to speak to Lea." That's who I worked with.
Great sign.
I know, right? But it does make me wonder, like, if we head to this world where there basically is a her, one, do you care? Like, because we were asking him, do you need to know, does the person on the phone need to know that it was something virtual? What's your opinion?
I suppose not.
That was kind of my thought too. Like in the early days, I feel like.
But can I put my caveat in?
Sure.
If I did start to get the suspicion that I was interacting with her,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked the question, I would want an honest answer back.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get that. I didn't squeeze that in. But with all of these AI leasing bots and agents, if you say, "Hey, are you a bot?" What's the answer?
I don't know.
All right, you can continue.
But you're right. If you ask it a question and it dodges or doesn't answer, it breaks trust.
Right. That's why I'd be comfortable with not knowing which may seem silly because how many people will ultimately ask that question, but just for me to get comfortable with it, I'd want to know that if you started to get that feeling that it would be honest with you back.
Yeah. Hold on. I've got 2 contacts that are favorited in my phone. One's Nicole. One is Reed. Are you a bot? Because I feel like it would break my trust. Because I actually was thinking about this the last weekend. I have heard there's this proliferation, and this maybe you're closer to this than I am because of your girls, but there are all of these AI friends now. Are you aware of this?
No.
So as you can imagine, it started with like girlfriends, or boyfriends. Like you can basically rent a AI partner, but same with just like platonic friendship. But what is kind of
rent?
Yeah, right. Because you pay a monthly fee. Pay a monthly fee, and right now, as far as I know, none of them are exclusive. So like that's where it sort of like trips me up. It's like, I'm friends with Jody. Aren't you friends with Jody? And it's like, well, I thought Jody was my best
Jody's
friend.
off limits.
Like I thought
I paid a premium.
Yeah. So it just makes me wonder where all of that is going.
Well,
way to take the
Lea
ball.
Pro. Yeah. So what I think, I personally think they're getting right and about this beyond the omni-channel, which is impressive. And I'm glad you called out the fact that you may have discounted that and probably shouldn't have, just how much effort that takes, especially the proactive element of it. And then but we didn't get into like sequencing and, how does it optimize through the omni-channel, through the process? Because, there's obviously different ways to get somebody to nudge, and then they might drop off of that channel. And I assume that's all the way it works, is it just seems to kind of intuitively kind of pick up where it needs to on different platforms, but is that they have chosen to nail the sales AI leasing. Versus trying to do something a little bit broader. And I'm not, I'll just stop there. I think that's the best approach. And then you just keep expanding. I don't know if that's their plans. We didn't get to that. But right now they're putting their flag, on the sales leasing AI.
We spoke a little bit to Matt about that, just how if they were going to keep going in through the funnel. And he said that, Apartment List has been sort of on the front end of the renter journey for a while, and that's where they plan to stay for now.
Well, thanks for refreshing my memory.
Yeah.
So
it's been a few weeks.
Yeah. So, okay. All right.
Yeah. But I think it's one of those things as a company where you wonder what'll happen in the next decade, right? Because Apartment List has been doing, as we've talked about many times, they sort of changed, they changed the model of what a traditional ILS is. And that went well for a while. And now they see this. They made the acquisition of, I don't know if they always said different, but anyways, they made that acquisition, which has really gone into this Lea Pro aspect. And now they're launching this, which is going to help, as you said, like more sales enablement and probably do a far better job than what a leasing agent can do, because it is trained on, I think he told us it was like 7 million renters or something. That's far more role plays than any sales rep is ever going to get.
23
right?
a week.
Yeah, right. What Reed's referring to is our client services team is doing like 23 role plays a week right now. So it's really interesting. And I think what's also interesting is I can't remember if standard Lea was free or if it was paid for, but I know that like right now they're launching Pro and they're starting out at least with some sort of, if you're a current client, you get Lea Pro, which will be a nice way to get.
Yeah, they definitely have an awesome promotion going. Neither one of us wants to misspeak or, if there's fine print there that we're not catching, but they're definitely trying to create as little barrier of entry as possible to existing clients, and I'm sure new prospects as well. So that's that mafia offer, that I've been talking about a lot lately. But if you're offering it more or less for free, then how can you say no?
Which is so cool and exciting, because for this industry, there's not a lot of the like freemium. Even if it is freemium, right? There's not a lot of that offering, and I understand why. Like usually the model for freemium is like Dropbox gives away 100 accounts and maybe one of those accounts will convert. So it doesn't really pay off with a market that's structured the way that this market is structured. But it's cool to see them do it. And then that also tells you how serious they are about it. Like you wouldn't be trying to do that if you didn't think it could scale. 2, you thought there'd be blowback, because that means you think it's going to be good. And you think it's going to be so good. It's kind of the like Costco chicken nugget or something, right? Like I'm going to have to buy those chicken nuggets.
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
No, not for me.
All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoy this conversation with Matt. Okay. We're here with Matt from Apartment List. Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm Matt Service. I'm the COO of Apartment List.
Cool. And how did you get to Apartment List? Like, what's your personal journey?
Personal journey, I've been working with earlier stage technology companies for the last close to 20 years. And so Apartment List is my third one. Was really looking, my very first company, I was employee 22, so super early, zero revenue. Kind of took that from zero to about 150 million in an IPO. Second one was scaled, hundreds of millions of revenue, kind of second act kind of thing. And when I was looking for my new gig, I was looking for something right in between, kind of growth stage, product market fit, looking to really scale the business. And that's really what I enjoy doing.
Cool. Do you know your employee number at Apartment List?
It's about 230.
Okay, that's cool. Reed, do you know your employee number?
Is it 3 or is it 1?
I don't know.
I think I came to you, so I'm going to say 1.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I always like being number 2. So that's
I see. What was the employee number when I joined Apartment List? Sorry, I thought you meant the total.
No, your personal one.
I
was just giving him a hard time. Since
no, I actually don't know what my personal one was.
Okay.
I would guess it's actually probably about 200, somewhere around there. We have about 230 employees. I thought that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's close, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you're somewhere in the 200s.
You came in
you're
on the
going
tail
north.
end of that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, what stage of company do you like? You mentioned, like, started early stage, and then you said growth stage. Is that have you? I think anybody that goes through their career finds that there's an area that they just seem to get more energized by than another.
Yeah. I mean, I think I said growth. I think it's scaling and growing businesses. Kind of figuring out what are the different things a business needs at different times in its phases of growth, and it's like I think you kind of hit these glass ceilings that you've got to kind of punch through and figure it out. And for Apartment List, a lot of it is not running the business on averages. How do we actually get more detailed, more granular in terms of how we think about the business and how we actually operate it to grow it? And that's a lot of fun for me. So that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's a great topic. Not running the business on averages. So, what's that mean to you?
I mean, the best way I can describe it is Apartment List is basically all over the U.S. Every major city, every major metropolitan area, every market is different. So if you look at all the stats across all the markets, they'll tell you one thing. But if you actually dig in and actually look at it on a market by market level, there's a ton of different dynamics. I would consider Apartment List to be a two-sided marketplace. We're really matching the supply and the demand being the renter side, supply being the units and listed by our property management customers. Thinking about the supply and demand balance is a really important part of our business. You're kind of by definition always going to be out of balance one way or the other. It's one of the fun things about running a marketplace. But if you actually look at it overall, individual markets can be very different and have very different dynamics in terms of supply and demand. And so being able to focus on a specific market level strategy is one of the things that's helped us grow. We weren't always doing that and didn't always have to do that, but it's become a big part of how we grow and kind of punch through that next level as we're continuing to scale our growth.
Totally. I mean, Reed and I, 20 years ago or so, we both were separately at the Yellow Pages. We were part of the Verizon Yellow Pages, and it's the same thing there, where it's like in some markets, they have great penetration and it's effective, and in some they don't. So how do you? I guess for ILSs. What? Sorry, I should also ask: is that acceptable? Like, I think of Apartment List as an ILS. Is that how you guys think of yourselves, or is that almost feel like derogatory?
No, I mean, I think that's the industry lingo, internet listing service. I would say that is our core business. I would say over the years I think we now have an AI product. We've just launched the new version of it called Lea Pro. So we are kind of, I think, expanding beyond a traditional ILS. I mean, I would consider Apartment List to be a rental matchmaker, but I would say, a lot of our kind of ethos and the way we think about it is we're actually a technology company. So it's like, how do we bring technology solutions to help match renters and help them find a place that they love to live? And so it's not just about, throwing a bunch of dots on a map and letting the renter kind of try and figure it out. We're actually trying to bring technology solutions and build products that help them do that. And so I think our core ILS is one way that we do that. And we have our AI product, which is just an extension of that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I see all of the players in that space starting to broaden their product set and offer more. And it's totally, to me, the right move. So where I was going with that question was, is it harder? Which side of the business is harder? Like you said, don't operate on averages, two-sided marketplace.
Yeah.
I agree with both these things. I think, as you were saying, when a company's in growth mode, they sometimes have the luxury of not having to pay as much attention. Then when you get to a certain scale, it seems like you would need to start to work on operational efficiencies and focus, because I'm just going to make a leap of an assumption.
Sure.
You can totally correct it. But in some markets, you might say, wow, we need more consumers. Therefore, we need more advertising to make that happen. In other markets, you might be plenty of consumers, but we obviously need listings for people to start matching them with, right? So
100%.
I'm just super curious, what you can share there.
I mean, I think growing a marketplace is you can't get outsized growth on one side, or the marketplace gets out of balance. So it's really growing a little bit of demand, then a little bit of supply to match it, a little bit of demand, a little bit of supply. And if you can do that, then overall the flywheel starts to pick up. Your conversion rates start to increase, and things start to get easier. But it is challenging to have it stay in balance. And as you pointed out, and as we are increasingly think about it, it's quite a different dynamic on a market level. And so having different strategies for how you're actually able to focus supply acquisition, for example, on a market level. The markets need different things, different approaches, similar in terms of advertising. And you're probably a little less limited, or more limited, in terms of what you can do, in terms of targeted advertising. A big part of that is just a national approach, and trying to just build that recognition and offer renters an experience that's differentiated. So there's no one size fits all answer. That's kind of the fun thing about growing a marketplace business.
Yeah, I imagine there's probably multiple right answers depending on the company as well. Is there in this space? I mean, we're in the advertising space too, but I don't really see us as competitive with the ILSs. It's more of like those are tools that are great for some people, and some people use our services and so on and so forth. But so I don't see this space as a winner take all. But when you're on your side, do many think of it as a winner take all, where is similar, like it's Uber versus Lyft or DraftKings versus FanDuel, or is it less? I don't know what the sentiment is. More on your side of the table versus maybe what the your marketers think.
Yeah, I do not think it's a winner take all, and I think that's true on both the renter side and on the supply side. I think you will see property management companies using multiple services. The most important thing for them is filling their vacancies, and they're using multiple ILSs, advertising directly, all kinds of different things. I think from a renter perspective, it's such an important decision. They're out there doing the same thing, looking through all sources, ensuring that they have considered all the options available to them to hopefully make the best possible decision in terms of the place that they're going to call home for probably the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, I like that answer. Because for me personally, this is more of a philosophical thing.
Yeah.
I think tech has kind of really pushed this narrative that it is winner take all. So then you raise tons of money, and then you basically give it to Google and Facebook. You burn the money, and we're all just raising money to give them money, and that doesn't make sense to me. I like the idea of building great businesses that can survive, and I wouldn't want to see that happen in the apartment space where raise big bundles of cash to go incinerate it, basically.
I agree. I mean, I think our philosophy is let's try and build great products, great renter experience, and let them come to us. And I think we're solving an important problem for them. And if we can do that well, then good things will follow.
Right. And Reed and I just yesterday were talking about how important it is for this space to have a healthy ecosystem, both for incumbents as well as the startups, because you want research and development to be happening so that it provides better solutions for the renters, but also for the management companies themselves. And so by you saying not winner take all means you don't need to pump in millions of dollars into advertising spend, which then instead you can spend money on R&D, and then you can develop things like Lea. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Did you see that segue? Man, I am just nailing it. But Reed, I know you have your notes too. So
I'm going to ruin your segue.
He always comes in and just knocks it over.
Yeah, blow it all up. Well, a couple things. Are you a Peter Attia fan?
No.
Okay. I thought for a second.
Not a fan, or do you even know who Peter Attia is? So there's a difference.
I think it's fair to assume he doesn't Well, no, that's not fair to assume, because maybe some people are aware of him and just don't like him. He's kind of like almost celebrity status now in the medical field. He's written a book called Outlive, just about longevity, lifespan. The reason I asked is when you said we don't want to manage the business to averages, that's how he thinks about blood work and about, our health. He's like, that's the worst thing you can do. It's so individualized, and it just seemed like a great comparison to the way you're thinking about the business, or maybe specifically the marketplace, which was my next question. More importantly, you mentioned that there's always going to be imbalance, but ultimately, you're trying to establish some level of balance within that marketplace. So I'm curious, how intentional are you about that? So if you see imbalance, are there kind of controls in place coming from a former CFO where it's like, when we hit this tipping point, as far as the amount of consumer or versus, business, we need to put some focus there and try to establish more balance within a specific market?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what running the business looks like. The marketplace is always evolving. It's always moving. There's external, internal dynamics. And so the way that I think about it, it's how do you get out in front of that? Because the other thing is, as you grow in size as a business, you become less agile. So you've got to have be looking further out on the horizon to start to make those adjustments. And that's whether as a business as a whole or on a specific market level. And so really just a lot of it, honestly, is having the right analytics and the right visibility into your business, and be looking at the right things at the right cadence of time. And it can also go the other way, I would say. You can be looking at analytics on a daily or weekly basis that just aren't moving. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like overload. And so know the things that you're going to look at that are actually actionable. It's kind of the least number of metrics that really matter on the right cadence, and that'll vary whether it's a weekly, monthly, or quarterly cycle. Yeah. And use that as the basis to kind of navigate the business.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm gonna see if I can pin you down on this because we asked several people that have been on the show that are trying to build marketplaces. Yeah. We've had Dwellsy with their and then just recently Revise. Are you familiar with Revise? Yeah. And we hear similar, which means it's pretty standard way of thinking about it. You know, you need that healthy, both sides. Yeah. But if you were forced to choose, this is my Sophie's Choice moment. But would you say it's more important for us to have a strong, on the business side, as far as options? And I'm leading a little bit here, so I don't want to go any further with that. But what do you think is more important? Maybe if you're trying to build a marketplace, you guys have already established one. So if you were starting from scratch,
I think for that, I mean, it's tough to pick once you get the flywheel started. But for me, it's always supply. You always start with supply. That was how we did it at Apartment List. We before my time, but picked 10 markets to go out and establish supply in, and kind of create that beachhead, and then went out and did another 10 markets.
Totally.
And that was the approach. And so I think that's pretty tried and true from establishing a marketplace perspective is start with the supply. It's really difficult to attract any sort of demand if there's nothing to offer there.
Right. It seems pretty obvious to me, but glad to hear you, I'll say, validate that. This will probably take us back to Lea, but there's been, I'd say, a minimal amount, really, in my opinion, since Apartment List. David and I have only been in the industry 10 years, but disruption within the ILS universe. Yeah. And I agree with David, and I think it's kind of at a point where it's a forced function now to evolve, or you become obsolete or irrelevant. Yeah. Within that genre. But you guys did that 10 years ago to me with a performance-based model. And yet it still seems like the gorilla, has not evolved or is refusing to. And I may not be fair and kind of talking out of turn here, but I'm curious, with the advent of AI and, the growing expectations and comfort level of interacting with that from consumers, if you're anticipating CoStar, Apartments.com, just being direct about it, to make some pretty big changes themselves in the way that they're going to market? Or do you see them, anticipate them kind of clinging on to what I feel like is a bit of an antiquated model? But it just seems like Lea is so exciting about where you guys are going with this. I'm anticipating that you guys are bringing this basically to the industry, and you're going to see replicas. And the biggest question is this big gorilla going to adapt, or do you think that they're going to keep, kind of holding on to their current model?
I can't speak for them. I can really just
speculation.
Speak to our approach, right? Which is innovation is good. There's an opportunity to add value to both the renters and the property managers through innovation. I think that's the basis of which Apartment List was established, and how we try to continue to show up. And I got really excited about AI back in 2021. And again, I kind of mentioned the look at technology to solve solutions. And so started looking at it, doing some research, got really excited about it in terms of its applications in the space, and kind of went all in. And the short story behind the AI is we made that decision. It was really early in the multifamily space. Went out and kind of did our research, all the players. We met an early stage company, a couple of founders, Didi and Perry, who had founded a company called Different. They were about 6 or 7 people based in Tel Aviv, had some really amazing AI talent and a great initial technology basis. And so we acquired them late in 2021. Again, kind of was, rather than just build it from scratch, we also knew, and part of our approach is like, let's move fast on these things. Fast innovation is important. And so helped us kind of jumpstart that, get some expertise in-house, and kind of acquire the foundation of the technology that we built Lea on, and then release the product in 2022.
Yeah. Well, how much, as David talks about not being the winner take all, you agreed with that. I wonder if Andy Florence agrees with that. But with Lea, how critical do you think it is? Like you mentioned, not necessarily building it from scratch, but speed to market. Like, who's going to win this AI kind of leasing apartment broker, virtual broker? Like, how do you think about the moat? Just kind of almost looking a little bit further ahead.
I think maybe he should explain what Lea is for those that aren't familiar.
Yeah.
Just give the elevator pitch.
Hopefully people listening to this podcast have some sense, but yeah, that's probably fair. Like, let's back up.
Sure.
If you want to.
Yeah, the way to think about it is start with the renter. So a renter is starting their apartment search. They might find a listing or something that they're interested in on Apartment List, directly listed on Google, and say, this looks interesting. But I've got a lot of questions. I need to dig in and find out if they accept Rottweilers, because I've got a Rottweiler. It's really important to have in-unit laundry and hardwood floors. All of those really specific questions to know if it's the place for them. By the way, they're probably not doing this during business hours. So access to information, timely information is really, really critical. And that's really kind of one of Lea's core value propositions and what it gives to the renter. It can basically answer those questions, multiple communication channels, whether that be email, text, chat on a property website or voice, and give them that real-time access to those questions. And from a property manager perspective, I think it's pretty well known. Leasing agents are overwhelmed. And it is super competitive right now. I think if you guys are probably aware of the trends, there's a ton of new construction coming on the market. Vacancy rates are really high. That just makes it really, really competitive to compete for the renters that are out there. And providing that kind of real-time, meet the renters where they are, great renter experience is really important. So at its core, that's what Lea provides to both the renters and the property managers.
And how's that actually come to fruition? Meaning, I think the user experience, you said starting with the renter, how's that changing how they engage with Apartment List today?
Well, I mean, I think it's just an extension of Apartment List, and that's really the way we think about it. Apartment List really hands off at the point where a renter is like, "Hey, this is a property I would like to engage with." They do that via a contact form on Apartment List, or they're also able to book a tour, and then it's kind of like over to you. And really, Lea is an opportunity to kind of bridge that gap. And once they have decided on a specific property that they'd like to dig into, find out more about, Lea is right there to kind of catch that, almost like a no-look pass. And the reality is, and I think where renters end up with negative experiences when they have invested all this time in a search, let's say on Apartment List, they're like, this is the property that I'm really interested in, or this is the two properties, and they get a blank stare back because for whatever reason there's a queue of emails that a leasing agent is looking to get through. Again, they're looking on a weekend, and the leasing agent isn't there till Monday. And so really ensuring that continuity and that timely response to, again, really meeting the renters where they are, and frankly engaging with them when they're ready and when they're actually in search mode, right? Like you could imagine you're investing hours of time, and then you go to work, 2 days later and get a call back. It's like, wait, hold on, I'm not in the right headspace. I don't necessarily even remember which place I'm looking at. And so actually being able to do it right then and there, I think adds a lot to the renter experience.
Yeah, Reed had mentioned performance model and how we're fans of that, and it's really from our background in in paid media, where you're really wanting to pay for the best click, and really you're trying to get the best call, the best lead.
Yeah.
But this space is often just focused on sending a bunch of leads, not necessarily sending the best leads. And so we've had many conversations, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago with clients that were on different ILSs, and they'd be like, they're saying, we'd ask, hey, why are you on there? Not saying you shouldn't be, just asking what your goal is. And they'd say, oh, to get me leads. And then we went through this period where we talked to a lot of customers, and they'd say, we're getting tons of leads from Apartment List, but we just can't possibly follow up with all of them. So it almost became like they were complaining about the noise like that they were getting. I was like, well, you asked them for leads, so then why are you upset that you got so many leads? They're like, well, our staff is overwhelmed. They have lead fatigue, is what they talked about. And so then we would even start to say to clients, like, okay, well, does that mean you should kill it? Or do you just want to, how do you handle then these leads from that source? And it sounds like Lea would help do that. But does it, any comments you want to make there, but also can it help solve for anybody else's channels, or does it just have to solve for your channel?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, I think in general, whether it's Apartment List or from all sources, lead volume is a key challenge. I think from a staffing perspective, but also just from a competitive standpoint. I was sitting in a session yesterday talking about AI, and one of the operators said every lead is valuable. Every lead is an opportunity to convert that renter into a lease, and we don't want to miss that opportunity. And I think the AI is really that connective tissue that really helps do that. In terms of Lea and actually our new product, Lea Pro, that is not just for Apartment List leads. That is a solution that sits on the property manager side and has the capabilities to engage with leads from all sources, and actually represents the property manager. So it is an agnostic solution. Again, works over all channels.
Yeah. Reed, what's it called? The basketball guy, whoever blocks the shot from making it in?
Blocks the shot from making it in.
Into the basket.
Well, that's just the defender.
All right, great. So of course, Lea acts
Doing a
as
little
defender.
Mutombo action here.
He doesn't know that reference. He's not as big on basketball. I love your no look. I played basketball in high school, so I was on that. But yeah, David struggles sometimes with these. Usually I can help him out, but I'm just simplifying it. The guy that blocks the shot is often the center. That's the position. And really, generally speaking, it's the defender. So I don't know if that helps you.
Well, I'm just saying, because like Leah's just like knocking down everyone else's leads, right? Not answering, and then like, hey, look, Apartment List is awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
that's not the way that it works.
No.
No. I was wondering where you were going with that, but
nice swing, but you missed.
It's more like the point guard, I would say, if you want to see. That's really going to mess you up.
I'm all over it. I'm all over it. That's the distributor. That's the quarterback. On the court. One of my hot takes with ILSs, and so I got a kick out of you talking about the matchmaking, if you will, but is in these days, or maybe I should say a few years ago, I felt like you almost want to be harder to find because of the lead fatigue and poor quality of leads that were coming in from kind of just spraying and praying. And so being that Lea Pro is so much more prescriptive, that solves a huge problem to me, potentially, so that instead of an apartment seeker being inundated and overwhelmed by options and choices, it's such a prescriptive, efficient process, which ultimately makes the whole journey, that much better. So am I wrong in thinking about it that way?
Yeah. We're asking about the renter journey or more on the
renter
side?
journey, because I was just saying when you sometimes just put listings up, and there's filtering going on and things like that, but there still seems like a real challenge in the matchmaking process. And that's what seems to me Lea Pro ultimately, I don't want to say is fully solving, but is taking a quantum leap forward for the renter journey.
100%. It is that next step after handoffs that really helps with that matchmaking. And as I discussed, really helps the renter move down the consideration funnel.
Right.
I think, just to talk a little bit about Lea Pro, which is our new version, it's 100% Gen AI powered, actually sales agent. Mm-hmm. And so what that does for us is, first of all, the generative AI just kind of raises the bar in terms of its capabilities, in terms of conversation quality and comprehension. Super important. As I referenced earlier, Lea is representing the properties. And so being able to provide a high quality renter experience is paramount. It doesn't work if renters are complaining. And so being able to deliver that very high level of conversation, and it's natural, it's engaging. As a renter, particularly if you were using the voice channel, you would know that you are not talking to a human, but the conversation quality is there that's okay. And so that's really exciting for us. And because I think, we haven't mentioned the words Chat GPT.
I was about to go there.
It's come up, multiple times. But I think the interesting thing about that, and we were, Lea was around before ChatGPT. ChatGPT coming onto the stage has really, I think, just kind of made it mainstream acceptable in terms of like, hey, AI is actually a tool that I'm comfortable as a consumer interacting with, but it's also really raised the bar in terms of the expectations, in terms of what the AI has to be able to do for it not to be a frustrating experience. So that's really important. In addition to the conversation quality, it also unlocks a whole load of new capabilities that we're pretty excited. And so it actually has the ability to now start selling. And so one of the things it'll do, if let's say someone comes in from Apartment List or another ILS, fills out a form, Lea can actually call them up. So it'll be a lead that shows up from via email or in their guest card. It can proactively call them, have an engaging conversation, actually ask them some discovery questions. What's important to you? What's your budget? And then also overcome some basic objections and kind of highlight the benefits of the specific property or apartment. And so and really in that way then get them over to the apartment to come and look at it. And so that's some pretty exciting capabilities that Lea Pro brings to the table, and some of the property manager clients that we have are pretty excited about.
Cool. I have two more questions. I'm going to squeeze in this one and then let David, if you have something, but then I have to come back to ChatGPT, but I think it's going to be a little different question than you were expecting. But I do think that this is incredible kind of intersection that we're hitting as an industry, and that you guys are really driving forward as far as the AI and centralization, kind of trends, right?
Yep.
They're kind of, it seems to me, wed, but that the timing is perfect for Lea Pro, and what so many operators are trying to achieve. What I'm curious about is, how do you guys accelerate adoption? Obviously you're going to be, speaking at conferences and but with all the discussion around AI, it still seems like there's a lot of anxiety, hesitation. We heard Matt Neves, I think, speaking about that, and he was like, yeah, you might have heard of hallucinations. Let me put some of those concerns at bay here, and this generative AI is changing that. It's so much more accurate, so much more trustworthy. But knowing the reputation, I hate saying it, but it's true that this industry is a little bit slower to move.
Yeah.
So is there kind of a specific or simple way you guys can you could explain to us how you're going to break through that stubbornness or fear? Because I still think, even with all the talk and excitement about this, isn't that still one of the biggest challenges, is to get the industry comfortable with this?
I mean, I think getting comfortable with a technology solution, yes. Short answer is yes. I mean, again, I think what I have learned about this, and I've said it several times, is the renter experience is just so important, right? Like this technology is representing the brand of whatever property or property management company, and that's something that is hugely important and cannot be taken for granted. And so I think for me, more than anything, it's just, how do we build that confidence? How do we demonstrate that we're good stewards of the renter experience and their brand? And that's really just the philosophical approach. And that's how we show up every day and ask ourselves, how can we be making this better? How can we be earning the trust of these property management companies to give us the privilege of representing them and helping with their renters. And so that's the best thing we can do. I don't think it's going to be different for everyone slightly. And so it's really just trust building more than anything.
And the trust may need to be built one property at a time, meaning, kind of the whole one brick at a time.
Yep.
But is it okay to ask, is it going to be, are you guys allowing that kind of micro testing, so to speak, within these portfolios, or is it, it needs to be portfolio, full portfolio? Enterprise.
I mean, we love full portfolio, but
Sure.
we're very much of an approach of let's put our money where our mouth
Right.
is. And
Okay.
so it's typically
That's great.
Typically more than one property, but give us a few properties. Let us get it set up. Let's get the on-site staff trained to make sure they know how to interact with the technology, and let us show you what it can do.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
And let the performance prove for itself. Speak
That's awesome.
for itself. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I got saving my GPT for last question.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious how you differentiate then, in this space, because there's so many startups popping up, as you said. It's great that OpenAI has helped push forward people's thought process and what's possible and acceptance. But there's a lot of noise, even in our industry, let alone if you look outside our industry. So how do you differentiate why someone would choose Lea over a lot of the other solutions that are popping up? You already said there's not a winner take all on ILS, but I imagine it'd be the same here, except you probably don't want multiple, virtual agents per property, but some people kind of have that experience.
But will they even know?
Well, I just mean it's more the
business
property management
Okay.
aspect.
Yeah.
They probably don't want multiple, but they currently are using multiple.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a property management company, ultimately you're gonna pick one solution to handle your leasing. I think the first thing I've said it a few different times. I think it's renter experience. What's the conversation quality? What's the trust factor? I think one of the things, and another thing you hear a lot said about AI. It's not about the technology; it's about the data set. It's true. I think we've got one of the largest, if not the largest, data sets. I mentioned our AI has been out since 2022. We've interacted with more than 7 million renters at this point. The AI is always learning from those conversations, and so having a really large data set makes the AI significantly better. So that's a big differentiator for us. And then I mentioned, some of the new capabilities, along with the proactive calling, the being able to actually sell the unit. We like to say, hey, our AI will sell the unit before the tour, and that's something that's not available today. So it is a huge differentiator for us that we're pretty excited about.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that it's going to continue to get harder and harder for now for the buyer of technology. To evaluate what's working better, right? Because I remember back in the day at my first startup, there were certain times I used Google and certain times I used Yahoo because of the search experience and what I needed to find. And so I'd have both tabs open and I'd be hitting, and there are different times I got better results with Yahoo. And but that was very easy for me to jump between. There was like low switch cost, right?
Yeah.
High switch cost when you talk about it like a virtual agent. And your first impression matters a lot for how you are like, okay, I'm going to be buying this thing or whatever it is. And then to know, if someone had a bad first impression with Lea, when do they come back and try it again? They've already chosen another agent. So I'm more just empathizing, I guess, with the buyer to say how challenging that would be. And then the renter, they don't really know, because they're not going to be like, I'm going to go search with Lea today. That's not really an option as it stands today, but perhaps in the future.
So the question is,
these are statements.
I don't know if it was a question.
I guess it looked like you're going to respond.
Hoping that you would somehow piggyback or comment off of that.
Let's talk about basketball.
Yeah,
I was waiting for the basketball reference.
Yeah. Well, I have brought this up with others, I guess, that have been talking specifically more about leasing agents. I hear a lot about the data that it's actually providing and enabling.
Yeah.
And we haven't touched on that, but I didn't know how much that is being thought about with Lea Pro, because it seems to me that some of the most valuable data you can get right now as a property manager would be these conversations. And so I didn't know if that's already something that's being, I don't want to say included, but are you making that data actionable, or is it left to the property manager or the ownership group for them to do the analysis? Make sense?
It does make sense. That I understand the question.
Okay, I don't need to turn the basketball.
No,
analogy.
you don't. I got you.
It was direct enough.
So couple of points on that. I think first, the way Lea Pro works is all of the conversations are inserted into the guest card. So the leasing agent has full access to the full conversation, the full context. So it's a very tight handoff to when it is time to engage with a live person. So that's one, but I don't think that's exactly what you're asking, which is more like, hey, is there an opportunity to actually mine the broader data?
Exactly. Operational insights. Deciding on amenities.
Yeah. I was talking to an operator at dinner last night, and we were getting really geeked out and excited about that opportunity. So that does not exist today, but I think it's a huge opportunity and kind of a next step to add additional value by providing those insights. So it's something I'm excited about.
Yeah, so you see it. Because if I have the option between A and B, but one is going to transform my whole business versus just the renter journey, and
just understanding what are the most common questions, what are the most common concerns, where do we lose prospects?
100%.
And I think just providing that insight again, just particularly in this market, which is incredibly competitive given the high vacancies and all the units coming on, I think anything that we can do to provide the property managers with a leg up and allow them to be smarter and more competitive adds a ton of value, and that's pretty much what we're all about.
Well, I did want to talk one thing about business model and then let you ask your final question.
Yeah.
But Apartment List was historically based on performance, as Reed was saying.
Yeah.
I don't imagine Leah's priced the same way. So I'm just curious about almost maybe the organizational change that you guys might be going through to support something that's less performance based.
Yeah, I mean, the way to think about it is Apartment List has our ILS product, which is performance-based billing, and then we've got Lea Pro, which is much more of like a SaaS model. And so different billing model. I think from an operational perspective, not a big change. I mean, I'm not the CFO anymore, so don't necessarily have to worry about this. But there was some changes in terms of our capabilities in terms of invoicing and collecting that, but nothing really significant. I mean, we are doing business with all of these PMCs. We're sending them invoices on a monthly basis anyway, so no big deal there.
Yeah. I imagine it'll be more predictable, perhaps, than some of the performance stuff. But I was just wondering if there's something there that I hadn't. So that's fine. And then when Reed was talking about mining the data and he's saying transform the business, to me that would mean that you would to do that appropriately or to maybe build your moat there, you'd need this agent throughout the life cycle of the tenant. So is that something, I guess, like that's on your guys' radar? Or do you guys still want to stay within like the lead gen, leasing angle?
Yeah, I mean, I think, from Leah's perspective, I wouldn't think about it as lead gen, but I would think about it as we have specifically made the decision with Lea Pro to go really deep and double down on the leasing process. I think there's obviously opportunities to expand and provide AI solutions for resident services as well. I think we'll head there, but again, our ethos is sort of leasing, and we think there's a really big opportunity. So go deep vertically rather than go horizontal. Has been our approach.
Yeah, I always love that angle from a business building perspective versus some folks just try to swallow the world, and to me, it just doesn't. I don't like approaching business that way to begin. But go ahead with your.
Yeah. So shot clock's running down. You and I are in a fast break. I do like the no-look pass, so it's coming.
Yeah.
How much have you thought about or spent time looking at applications of generative AI for the business of Apartment List? It's been super difficult for me. David knows I'm having to kind of restrain myself with our CTO and our operating officer. I find myself asking, why aren't we really leaning into this as in the way that we operate?
Yeah.
And so, how much of, with all this excitement about the product, have you spent thinking about how this could apply to transforming Apartment List as a business?
Yeah, I mean,
internally,
we've spent quite a bit of time on it. A couple of things I'll say there is one, just philosophically, one of the things we try and be is pretty disciplined as a business. There is no shortage of growth opportunities that we can invest in. What we've found, I call it kid in a candy shop syndrome, and that's bad. And so it's very kind of disciplined prioritization and ensuring we're focusing on a small number of things that we believe really move the business. So that's just general philosophy.
Sure.
I think we've applied that to AI and how it can impact our business, and I think there's investments that we're making, both just in terms of the classic kind of internal productivity applications, but also we're pretty excited about what it can do for just our overall matchmaking, search, and discovery experience. So those are both areas that we're excited about and trying to invest and move forward in a disciplined way.
Yeah. Very well answered. The internal productivity, I just think it's interesting if I'm a seller, like you employ me at Apartment List as a sales rep, how I be feeling about this. Cause I'm, like, oh, this is a leasing agent for the industry, I'm a seller for Apartment List. Why wouldn't, and I don't think you have to make a choice. I'm just saying, like, it seems like it could be a game changer for the sales force of Apartment Lists. And it's eating your own dog food, analogy.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think obviously opportunities to really complement what we're doing and just make it more productive and efficient. I think just from a selling perspective, we're relationship builders. And so I don't think we're going to be replacing our sales team with AI bots anytime soon, if that's what you're implying.
Not entirely, but Lea Pro to me is a relationship builder.
Yeah.
Because it's expressing things like empathy, it's building relationships with, and so I don't think you're going to jump to that, but it just seems like such an exciting application potentially to make a sales force far more productive, more efficient, just the way that you're thinking about it as a product.
100%. I think just as the applications we've discussed in terms of increasing the productivity of a leasing agent, you could absolutely, close parallel to a sales function at Apartment List. No doubt about it.
Yeah, cool. Well, I could keep going, I could, but I'm going to stop there and spell you a little bit. It's okay, got to put. Well, I was going to say let him get his rest on the bench or something. But I'm done.
We're done with basketball.
Yeah, I think I'm.
I love trying
running
to
that
tee him
into
up.
the ground. Yeah.
The best part about it is you don't know anything about basketball.
Nope.
Yeah. Whenever I want to confuse David, I just start bringing in the sports analogies. And then I know I have the upper hand for at least a few minutes.
Exactly. Well, Matt, thank you for your time today. Is there anything that we missed that you wanted to make sure to express before we get out of here?
No, I think I think we covered off everything I wanted to talk about. Appreciate the conversation and enjoyed meeting you guys. Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt.